Welcome to Rise with AI, the podcast that spotlights trailblazers in e-learning and professional training, helping you reach new heights, create impact, scale your vision, and empower others. I'm your host, and today we are joined by Luke LeFevre, the founder of HolyWork. Luke's journey from a place of restlessness and doubt to discovering the transformative power of journaling is nothing short of inspiring. Former Chief Creative Officer at Ramsey Solutions, Luke now helps others slow down, find clarity, and follow their divine pull through his membership and coaching programs. Luke, let's dive in. How did journaling change your life and lead you to start HolyWork?
It actually started with a letter to my wife in 2010. I was a pretty restless, discontent person before that. We had been married about 9 years. And I was dealing with addictions. I was dealing with my mind was all over the place. Like, oh, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing for a career. The marriage isn't going the way I thought it would, even though I didn't really have any thoughts. And so I just had all these thoughts like wrestling and bouncing around my head all the time, restless, anxiety, overwhelmed by all those things. And honestly, just disappointment with how things were going. But I held all of that inside. And I was actually so overwhelmed and overcome by it that I was starting to think about getting a divorce. I was starting to blame all of that overwhelm on my wife. And in 2010, I was out for a run. And as I was running, I was just really playing out, okay, what would happen if I got a divorce? I had 2 kids at the time, where would they go live? I was really playing it out. And as I did that, I was just overcome. I'm crying. I'm like really playing this out. And I felt something on my body. And I know that's weird. It wasn't like an audible voice, but it was just like a thing that was just like, be still and know that I'm God. And I know that's a verse that in the Bible that a lot of people have heard, but it really did just kind of shock me out of this slump I was in. And I got home and I was like, what do I do with that? I just went from feeling so overwhelmed to stop it, be still. And it made me just think, okay, what if that was God? Like, what if that was what everybody talks about? Like, what if that was true? And I was like, okay, if that was true and that was God, because it didn't feel like me, it didn't feel like some thought that I had, it just felt out of nowhere. And if that was true, then maybe something I read in the Bible in the past was true. And the verse was, the truth will set you free. And so I just had this thought, I'm going to write my wife a letter. I'm going to tell her everything. And so I wrote out all of my doubts, all of my addictions, all of the things I was hiding from her in our marriage. And I just wrote honestly, truthfully. I didn't filter. I didn't edit. I just told the truth. And I said at the end, I was like, I don't know if any of these thoughts I'm having are actually true, but it's the truth of what I'm thinking and feeling. And I then read that letter to her, and she didn't like it, of course. She wasn't happy. But what happened was it actually healed our relationship because we were finally being honest with each other. And so we started to go see counselor. We started actually communicating. And then a couple of weeks after that, I just had this thought that I was like, my goodness, if I told her the truth of what I was thinking and feeling, I wonder if I got up every day and started writing out the truth of what I was thinking and feeling about everything, about God, about my work, about my kids, about what I was going through. And so I just started writing in the mornings every day. And that was in 2010. And I just did that for 5 years. I just got up and wrote, and I would read a little bit of a book or a little bit of the Bible, and I would just write my honest, true thoughts and feelings. And from 2010 to 2015, if you look at that change that happened in my life over those 5 years specifically, it was incredible. Like, my relationships got better. I got a bunch of promotions at work. My leadership got better. I was making more money. So, like, better career, better marriage, better relationships. And I'm looking and I'm like, oh, it's because I was unloading all of these thoughts, and that quiet time in the morning gave myself a place to put all those thoughts and helped my brain start to make sense of all the things that was going on in my life. And then I'm a Christian. I know not everybody listening to this is a Christian, but I also felt like it was a space for me to let go of all those thoughts and give them to God. So about 2015, I started telling other people about that. Like, they would come to me with problems and I'd start saying, well, hey, tomorrow morning, get up early, and just write out what you're actually thinking and feeling. No holds barred, no filters, don't edit, curse words, just get it out. And they would come back the next day after they tried it, and they'd be like, "Luke, I feel so much better." And I was just like, "Whoa, cool." And so for the next 7-ish years, I started teaching it I was at Ramsey Solutions, an incredible company here in Nashville, Tennessee. And I started teaching other people do it, and then I started teaching people outside of Ramsey to do it. And eventually I just felt called, oh, I want to start a mission. I want to start a business around helping people do
Mm.
this and help leaders, help creatives, help people slow down, get their thoughts out to figure out where they're going. And so that's how it started.
Wow, what an incredible journey. And you have come so far, but you have done definitely deep work, because
Yes,
5 years
for
of
sure.
just journaling, I bet for 365 days multiplied by 5, that's a lot of things that you can actually pour out.
I've got stacks. Yeah, I've got stacks of journals from that time.
How many, so walk us through the process. You mentioned about you actually taking out the time, right, to write in the morning. So walk us through how does the planning looks like?
Yeah. Well, it started, pretty sloppily. I just said, I'll just get up, I'm going to read, and then I'm going to write. And if anybody's struggling with it, that's what they should do. They should just get up and write and not put too much of a structure on it. But the way I work it now is, if somebody's coming to me the night before, pick whether you are more alert and aware in the morning or the evening. So some people are just more energetic in the morning. Some are more energetic in the evenings. For me, my time is in the morning. By the time 9 o'clock hits at night, I'm tired. I need to go to bed. So I tell someone to set aside about 45 minutes in the morning, and then just get a book. So start with a book, just a book that expands your brain, a nonfiction book that is about something spiritual or something learning, and just read for about 10 pages. And then sit in silence for 1 minute. So you just sit there. And that allows your brain to realize, hey, it's okay for us just to slow down, because we're just moving so fast all the time with cars and airplanes and internet and social media and all these things. And so when you just sit in silence, you're giving it permission not to take in any more information. Then after the silence, I just start with 4 things from the day before that I'm grateful for. It could be very small things. It could be, oh, I liked the walk that I took. I liked the workout that I did. I liked hanging with my kid. So I just write 4 simple things I'm grateful for. And then I write nonstop for about 10 minutes. So you just start writing nonstop. Don't lift your pen, just keep going. And that 10 minutes just starts to get out. It gets you through what I call the epidermis level. It's this surface layer stuff. It's worry about the bills, and it's worry about the stove broke, and it's worry about the refrigerator. It's all these petty things, or worried about my parents or my kids, or it's these kind of petty things that are clogging up our connection with ourselves, with God, our creativity. And so I just suggest writing for 10 minutes nonstop about whatever is going on in your brain. And what happens is, about 6 minutes in, you've basically written out all the things you're sort of surfacey worried about. And then the last few minutes are, man, I'm actually feeling pretty sad about whatever, or I'm feeling pretty afraid, or, you kind of get to the real heart of things. And then so that's about the 10 minutes. And then after that's the main core of what to do. And then I go through some other exercises in my coaching, but that's the beginning. That's the 10 minutes is the strongest, most effective method. If you do that every day, your brain starts to make sense of all of these random thoughts in your head. So our brain's thinking pictures and moments and little memories here and a little worry here. Like, it thinks like that. But when you sit down to write, what you're doing is you're putting a structure to it, and you're going left to right, just like a movie or a book. And your brain starts to go, okay, we can stop stressing about this. And it allows your brain to calm down. So that's how I suggest people do it.
It's amazing. I feel just by listening to you and picturing that whole process, it really gave me a lot of calmness, the energy of calm, and
Good.
really looking inwards. That's very important. So in terms of, because journaling is a lot about self-reflection and really going inwards, how does that actually help? How did you see this journaling work through the inner works actually help the leaders improve, as or could be as their founders, or
Yeah.
actually in their leadership style? Can you also
Yeah.
share some specific examples?
Yes. What happens with leaders, especially, is you've got so many people coming at you a lot of time. The largest team I was leading at one point was about 100, 150 people. And so there's a lot of people coming at you all the time. And hey, what do you think about this? And what do you think about this? And what do you think about this? Well, I would always say, I don't know what I think. I haven't thought about it. And so what would happen is I would just start having all these ideas or opinions or other people's stuff. You get overwhelmed with all the people that need things from you. And so you end up just reacting all the time. So you're always just reacting. A leader is meant to lead, not react. And so how can you be a leader? How can you be a thought leader of your company if you never give yourself any time to think? So you have to set aside time to think. And so what this helps with leaders is if you set aside 45 minutes to an hour and you don't look at your phone, you don't look at the notifications, you don't look at what everybody needs, and you actually start to spend time thinking and growing yourself, you will become a thought leader. So that when someone does come to you with something, you have a thought that you're able to share. You have a vision for your company. A lot of leaders don't have a vision for their company. I talk to leaders all the time, and their teams are struggling, their culture is struggling, their communication is struggling. And I will just say, well, what do you want to do this year? And they don't know. They don't know. Not all of them, but a lot of them, especially small businesses, they don't know. They're just reacting. And they're reacting to things that come to them. And so the phrase that I go back to all the time is, how can you be a thought leader if you never give yourself any time to think? And so that's how this helps leaders.
I just had a aha moment, like the thought leader actually comes, sit in perfectly with this, having a notebook. You know what? Actually, I prepared a journal today because I was thinking, wow, that is going to be very impactful. And so, thought leader, taking some time to craft out your message, your mission for the company.
Yes.
And if let's say right now I have a book with me, how would you want to structure on the journal to actually come out to refine our business strategies?
Well, what I would do first is I would say, let's think through a giant vision. So for you in this podcast, let's take that, for example, and maybe you don't know, so I don't want to put you on the spot, but like, what is your vision, big vision for the podcast? I would want you to write that down. I would want you to say, well, in 12 months, I would like to have put out 24
100.
episodes. How many?
100.
100 episodes. And do you want this podcast to support your income? Do you want to have advertisers? Do you have a vision for all of that stuff?
The support systems.
Yeah. So put like tangible feelings on it. So I want this podcast to, when I put out my 100 episodes, I want some income to be coming from advertisers. I would like to have this many downloads per episode. I would like to be making X amount of dollars per month with it. Now, and maybe you want this podcast to support your entire lifestyle. Maybe this is the thing you want to do full time. Write out that vision. So I have some exercises that I go through with people. I'll say, write me a vision for your life 5 years from now. And so it'll start with, well, I've been in my role now for 20 years. My kid will be 18 years old. And so you just write out exactly what's going to, like a vision for what you want that to be.
In present tense.
Yep. In the present tense. And you kind of imagine what it would be 5 years, 10 years from now. And then so that would be the first part, is to set a giant vision. Then we step back and say, okay, what's the vision for the year? What do we want to have happen for the year? And then you write that down. Okay, well, I'm going to get the 100 episodes out and make it somewhat realistic. But what do I want for the year? What's my goal? Okay, if I want 100 episodes, that means we got to keep backing up. That means I have to do X amount per month. That means I have to be reaching out to this many advertisers if I want it to bring income. So I would just back down all the way into the daily activities I need to be doing today in order to make that 5-year vision a reality.
Brilliant. So basically looking at the bigger picture and then really refining, and also having the writing in the present tense of where you want to see yourself. I think that's a very important piece. You also mentioned about putting in feelings as one of the key anchor to actually bring us to that state. Amazing. So through this process, right, what are some of the common mental blocks or even limiting limiting beliefs that you actually help your clients work through as they pursue their life work?
It's really three things. I call it the war. So the vision we're talking about, I call the pull. Like you're feeling pulled to start this podcast. A business owner feels pulled to start their business or whatever that thing is. Well, immediately when you start to follow that pull, you hit what I call the war. And the war is fear. It's voices in your head, and it's just general resistance. So fear of what other people will think, fear of rejection, fear of failure. Those are the big ones. So a lot of people are just afraid of all of those things. So what we work through is we actually write them down. We actually say, what are you afraid of? Like actually write it down. Okay, I'm afraid my parents will think I'm a failure. I'm afraid the team members will turn on me. Everybody has different fears, but ultimately all of those fears come down to one thing, and that one thing is other people. If you were on an island by yourself, you wouldn't be afraid to do what you felt like you wanted to do. Most of our fears come down to other people. So we just have to say, I acknowledge that fear and I'm going to keep moving anyways. So that first one is to just acknowledge the fear. The second one is to actually acknowledge the voices in your head. So a lot of people have voices in their head from their parents, old bosses, caretakers. That's wiring that's just kind of been put in your head from your upbringing. And it could be good, it could be negative, and oftentimes the negative things are what stick. And so we just have to write down what those voices are. And it could be, oh, you're never going to amount to anything. I have worked with a lot of creatives over the years too. And there's a lot of creatives who are making a lot of good money doing creative work that in the past, some of their teachers said, you'll never make any money doing that creative work. So you need to change your brain, and they're just wrong. So they have that voice that they have to rewire. And then lastly, resistance. Resistance is just that feeling of like, I know I need to get up and make this plan for the day, or I need to write the paragraphs, or I need to write the book, or I need to make the strategy. And we just don't want to. Like it's just, there is just a general resistance. Stephen Pressfield in his book, The War of Art, calls it resistance. And anytime you're putting something good out into the world, whether it's starting to work out, you want to adopt a baby, you want to do any of these things, there will be a resistance to you. And so you just have to choose to show up anyways. And so those are the big roadblocks: fear, voices in your head, and resistance that we have to work through, and just get them to work through it, write it down, flip it on its head, give it a positive spin, and then keep going. Good question.
You touch on the fear.
Yeah.
And now I want to touch on the faith. How do we actually integrate faith and spiritual belief in journaling?
Yeah, great question. The way that I do it is I read a little bit of the Bible as well at the beginning of my journaling. So I'll read a book that is of spiritual nature in some form, and then I will read some of the scriptures in the Bible. Then at the end, so I write for my 10 minutes. Then after those 10 minutes, I give people a list of 8 core feelings. And those 8 core feelings are anger, fear, shame, guilt, loneliness, hurt, sadness, and gladness. So those are the 8 feelings. And I have them say, okay, which ones am I feeling right now about what I wrote? And so they might say things, well, like, I'm feeling afraid of a big meeting I have today, or I'm feeling angry about what someone did yesterday. So then we acknowledge our feelings. And what that does is it just starts to get you honest about what's going on in your heart. Then at the end, after you've written for 10 minutes, you've sat in silence, you've read some books, you've read the Bible, one of the most powerful things we do in this is I say, all right, I just want you to take 2 minutes. I want you to be quiet. And I just want you to say, in light of everything I've written and everything I've read, God, what do you want to say to me? And you sit for a minute or two and you just listen. And I know it sounds crazy to some people, but if you just listen, you sense things, you hear things, and you think it's going to be what happens is people hear things like, hey, I love you, or hey, keep going, or hey, go hug your wife today or your kid. Like, you'll hear these things like that, or you'll sense those things and you'll think, oh, I'm just making that up. I'm just making that up. And then if you do it every day for a year, you realize, oh my goodness, every time I ask God what he wants to say to me, it's something about love. It's something about connection and how he's encouraging me. And I've done that hundreds of times with people. And inevitably, that's the thing that they stop and they're like, oh my goodness, that listening. I've been a believer in God or a spiritual person for a long time, but I've never slowed down enough to ask what he wants to say to me. And it's incredibly powerful.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just sitting in there, you might actually think, the voice is not yours, but actually it's all coming from within.
Yeah. It's there. You can
Faith,
trust it. You can trust it.
huge part, which is trust. And how would you suggest someone who might be struggling to actually build out this journaling as part of their consistently for as their routine?
Yeah. Habits are so hard to reform. And so it's like anything. You have to get so sick and tired of the way things are going that you make a change. And until you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you won't make a change. So if you have a bunch of debt in your life and you just keep overspending, you have to get sick and tired of that enough to get angry about it to make a change. And if you are feeling constantly overwhelmed, anxious, and numb in your feelings, and you keep going to the same things like getting a drink, overeating, spending, eventually you just have to make a choice and say, I've had it. I'm over this. I am going to do something different. And then you say, tomorrow, I'm starting something new. I'm going to write out this anger. I'm going to write out this frustration instead of going and grabbing a drink, instead of going to overeat, instead of spending, instead of numbing out on Netflix or whatever it is. You have to come to a moment where you're like, I'm done and I'm going to start something new. That's what a big change in life happens. And so little things you can do if you're having trouble being consistent are, once you've gotten to that space where you're like, I got to make a change, then you set your alarm differently. You get the journal out ahead of time. You make sure your family knows, hey, in the mornings, I'm going to start trying something new. I need 30 minutes just by myself. And you start saying it out loud. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. You set aside the time. Just like if you were going to go work out, you would set out, and you need to go at 6 a.m. in the morning or 5 a.m. in the morning. You set out your clothes the night before because you just don't want to have to make those decisions in the morning. So it's the same with starting a habit like journaling.
Yes, you have to schedule it. Otherwise, it don't exist at all.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah. Otherwise, we're just
Excel.
reacting, And that's the thing you're just reacting. And that's the thing I see with people all the time is they're sleepwalking. I was sleepwalking. The first 9 years of my marriage, I was sleepwalking. We had a bunch of debt. I was overweight. I had addictions because I was just going with the flow of whatever life was putting in front of me. And then I couldn't figure out why I wasn't content, why I wasn't happy. Well, I wasn't being intentional with my thoughts. And your thoughts create feelings, and your feelings create behaviors. And so if my thoughts are, I'm never going to, I'm always going to be stuck in this position, I'm never going to be a content person, those are my thoughts, and those ruminate and ruminate and ruminate. So then those create feelings of angst, of overwhelm, of depression. They just create these feelings in our bodies. So then we behave in ways that continue to exacerbate that same feeling. And it's just this cycle over and over and over again. And until you're intentional with your thoughts, your feelings will follow, and then your behaviors will change as well. And if you change your behaviors every day, eventually your outcomes will change.
That's amazing. I love this where this conversation is taking us. And
Good.
I actually remember there is this saying that says that your thought become, like you mentioned, your beliefs, and then become your actions, and then also it becomes your destiny at the end, which is how your life is going to unfold. But I think what is amazing here is also that now you're aware of your own thoughts. Now you're also aware of your actions with the people around you. So,
yes.
Wow. And I want to
over and
also
over again.
touch
I mean, it's what, if you go back to the Greek philosophers, if you go back to old scriptures, thousands and thousands of years ago, you are what you think about. I think it was Marcus Aurelius said, I'm looking up the quote here. Marcus Aurelius said, you are what you think about. The scriptures said the same things. Where is it? Proverbs 23:7, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Marcus Aurelius says, a man's life is what his thoughts make of it. And then Ralph Waldo Emerson, a man is what he thinks about all day long. Norman Vincent Peale, as you think, so shall you be, over and over again. And those were philosophers, some like Marcus Aurelius and the scriptures and Proverbs. Those were thousands of years ago. But what's been really amazing lately is all this is the premise of cognitive behavioral therapy. All your thoughts create feelings, those feelings create behaviors, and those behaviors added up over time create outcomes for you, for your family, for your work, for your relationship with God. And the health of all of those things, feelings, thoughts, behaviors, they impact your contentment, your joy, and your leadership as an owner of a business or someone who's leading something. And so what's cool is that science is backing up what the philosophers and the scripture writers have known for thousands of years. And now we're studying the science and it just proves it over and over and over again. It's pretty cool.
And now you are the messenger of all the this message. So kudos to you.
I'm trying.
So I would also love to actually touch on this podcast name is Rise with AI. With the rise of generative AI that can also help us to formulate our thought process, how can one actually utilize this software to also help them to better their thought process and also even their journaling?
It's amazing. One way you can do it, I profess and say that you should write with a pen and a journal. And so take a pen and write on a piece of paper. That really does slow you down. But what's incredible with AI is you can actually, if you want to do this, I don't do this, but you can upload your journals over and over and over again. And you can say, hey, pull out the patterns for me that you notice. Pull out what you see has happened over the last month in my journals. If you put that in there, that helps with reflection. So on Sundays in my program, we don't journal out a bunch of new things. We look back over the past week. And so you flip through and you see where you were thankful and you see where you were stuck and what you wrote. And reflection actually helps us grow even more. And so AI, if you uploaded your pictures, you could say, hey, pull out what sticks out to you about these writings. And it could show you and help you reflect better because we often don't learn from experience. Of course, we do learn from experience. Oh, I stubbed my toe or I screwed that up. We really learn from reflecting on experience. So if we go through something and then we write about it, we reflect on it and we ask ourselves what we learned, that's a really powerful way to grow. And so with AI and journaling, that's one way you could use it to help it be even better. And so, like I said, I'm a proponent of a pen and a journal and a piece of paper, but a lot of people like to type. And if you want to type in AI and have it collect those over time, that would be pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm learning so much about being a thought leader because right now, even using AI, you can also use it to come up with their own reflections. And
100%.
But all of the inputs are all from you, and then now you're just using it to better your thinking thought process as a thought leader.
Yeah.
Just learning so much. And I see that you actually offer a B2C membership and also at the side executive coaching as well. How do these actually complement each other? For those who haven't really, I don't know if they are listening to this or not, but I'm learning so much as a thought leader. But I would love to hear from you. Yeah, how do actually the B2C membership and also the executive coaching complement each other?
The reason I have two of them is because a lot of people at home may or may not be leading companies. They may not have communication and culture issues. So the B2C membership is basically you work through four things over and over again. You work through your practices, which is the journaling every day. Then you work through your pull, which is, okay, what do I want? What is the pull God is pulling me towards? We work through the wilderness, which is just the work you have to do to follow those things. And then we work through the war, which is, all right, what's fighting against these things? So that's the B2C side. You get twice a month, we get together and we do a guided session together, and then we do some coaching. And that's really like personal issues. It's anxiety about your kids or your parents or anything like that. The executive coaching side, we do go through those four things as well, because that's the personal leadership stuff. If you're going to lead your company well, you have to be leading yourself well. We also go into, all right, now let's work on your communication. Let's work on your culture and let's work on your vision. Like, where do you want this thing to go? So it's a little bit more in depth. It's a little more intense. I push quite hard because you need people to be challenged in order to grow. I push a little less hard on the consumer side. I just want people to build this practice into their life. And so the B2C is basically just those first four things. The executive coaching dives deeper into your communication, culture, and your vision.
And apart from this membership and coaching, are you actually looking into expanding any new products or services in HolyWork?
My main focus is getting people into the membership. I think it's one of the most effective ways to transform your life is to build this habit into your life. Eventually, yeah, I will make an app, but I really want it to be personal. I don't want it to be a thing on an app store that I download for $4 and then I never use. This is more important than that. I want to talk to people on Instagram. I want to have a great conversation to see if they are at that point we talked about before where it's I've had it with the way life is and I need to make a change. That's what I'm really focused on is that personal connection, that personal coaching versus just oh, this was a nice thing and I sort of ignore it 25 days out of the year. I don't want that.
Well, thank you so much for putting in that vision in mind, because I think that's very important. People are in a membership, but if they don't take in the time to actually work on themselves, there's no growth at all and transformation. Last question, looking ahead, where do you see the biggest opportunity for growth and impact in the personal development and leadership coaching space in years ahead?
Great question. Leaders right now are like there's all these you can get certified and you get all these certifications and all these things you can get behind your letters and names. All that's fine, and if it helps you learn some more things, that's great. But it's more important to be connected to what your soul is needing and following that thing. If you as a leader don't know why you're on this earth and you're not following that, you're floating. And so if it's just about making money, if it's just about more cars, if it's just about a nicer watch or house, you will end up disappointed. All of those things are fleeting. I like all those things. I want all those things too, but that's not the goal. And so maybe it's going there already, but the coaching space, there's a lot of great coaches out there. I just think it's going to continue to move towards the heart, and it's having confidence in your vision and then knowing why you're on this planet and going after it versus just being a machine who knocks stuff out. When you have the heart and you care for your team members and you're actually push into their lives to make sure that their lives are better because they came in interacting with you, that's the future. And so, yes, we have jobs to do. We have work to do today. We have things we want to deliver on, but get involved in the heart. What do these people need? What do you need? Where are you going? That's the future. Like that's what we all have to do, because honestly, AI, the robots can do the other stuff. Robots can do production. We're now going to be the thought leaders. That's what we have to be spending time on. Let's lead thought and let AI, let robots do the lawn.
I got a good one. So with great power comes greater responsibilities, and also make sure that you also have the harder work, which is the harder work. Okay, it's a bit corny, but I like that jokes.
Yeah. Corny is often true.
The hard work, we are doing the hard work, okay?
Yeah.
As a leader. We're going to end off with 3 rapid questions.
Okay.
Luke, I have with me 3 rapid questions. Answer them as you go. Again, what's your go-to tool for managing your business?
I use Go High Level. That's what I use to have the website, the CRM. I use that. So that's the thing that first came to my mind.
Second question. If you could master any skill instantly, what would it be?
Sales.
Okay.
And sales, because
go ahead.
I want to figure out not how to sell people, but how to enroll people. I want to know whether if they're really in or they're really excited about it, and then see that, no, this thing can really help them. I want to enroll them. I want to learn how to do that even better.
The words that you are using is so empowering. And
good.
Last question, what's one book that has influenced your approach to life or business?
I'll give you 2. First is Wild at Heart, is a book by a guy named John Eldredge. It's great for men specifically. That really woke me up a few years ago, back in 2010, during that really impactful time. And the second is The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. If you are feeling stuck, you're feeling restless, go read that book. It's such a simple, easy read that will punch you in the face.
All right, folks. Thank you so much, Luke, for all your insightful answers. And how can people find you online?
Yes, my preference is just to go to Instagram, Find me on Instagram. It's at Luke LeFevre. It's LukeLEF as in Frank, EV as in Victor, RE. That's the best way to find me.
Thank you so much again, Luke. So that's all for today's episode of Rise with AI. A huge thank you to Luke for sharing his incredible journey and insights on the power of journaling and also building a purpose-driven business. My biggest takeaway is that a leader has to actually go do their inner work, and so they can actually make the world and also their company and their business a better place. This episode inspired you listeners. Share it with someone who needs to hear it and tag us with Rise with AI. Don't forget to subscribe for more conversations with leaders in the e-learning and professional training space. So until next time, keep reaching, impacting, scaling and empowering. See you guys soon. Bye.